Part of me's chuckling the whole time you're giving that speech, and I'm just thinking to myself, man, I wish he had that mustache shaved while he was giving it. He's talking about how much they own Ohio State.
Dude.
Somebody who was loving it, Kyle McCord.
Yeah. You see this post-game press conference?
Yeah,
yes, dude.
Hitting the Drew Lock, second coming of Drew Lock in the locker room.
Crushed all post-game stuff.
Crushed it, bro. And upsetting Miami, which ultimately hopefully plays into the favor of like South Carolina trying to get into this college football playoff. There's so many different variables, man. I love it.
I know. I started to watch some stuff too on South Carolina and their chances to get in. It seems like of the three that are fighting for it, they are the team that is unfortunately going to be like not allowed in. Because you lost to Ole Miss, right? Lost to Ole Miss, obviously lost to Alabama, but you guys win 6 straight. Like you're talking, there's lots of different ways to look at it. Do you look at straight up head-to-heads, or do you look at who's the hot team right now that can make the best run? Because there's an argument, I don't remember who I was listening to, but they were saying the argument really is like Texas is the best team in the SEC, and then it's South Carolina right now. That's the next best team. I think
that there's a team, if I had to play...
That's what they were saying on the thing.
Well, Tennessee, you guys are going to get in.
Oh, are you saying... I'm just confused by this.
Hey, put the gun down.
Yeah,
y'all got a 5.
You guys are going in. You guys
get to shave my mustache, all of that.
I think of any 3-win team out of the SEC teams who have the 3-win, it's going to me, 3 losses. It's a battle more so out of South Carolina and Ole Miss than it is Alabama.
I disagree.
And why?
You think Alabama is the odd man out?
I think Alabama is based on resume. Because you look at the head-to-head, Bama got them by 2 points. Ole Miss beat South Carolina pretty handily.
And who did Ole Miss also beat? Georgia, who we also beat.
Yeah, but again, you look at your guys. The last 6 games, you guys have dropped games you should not have dropped. You have zero business dropping. Like if you're a championship football team, it's you don't beat yourselves. And you guys lost to Vandy. You guys got handled by Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. 2 teams that South Carolina handled. So if you just look at since that game, if you guys edging them out by 2 points, I think that's where South Carolina's resume right now, if you're trying to get the best teams in the college football playoff, I think that's where they have the edge over Alabama, even though you guys do have them in the head-to-head. When you look at Ole Miss, again, you don't want to beat yourselves late in the season. They dropped a game against Florida, who's a 7-5 SEC team. But if you look at Florida being a 7-5 SEC, being a 7-5 team, record team, Florida's spicy. Like Florida's actually a quality opponent. They've had one of the hardest schedules throughout the entire year. They're obviously a way better football team when that quarterback Lagway, when DJ Lagway's playing. So that's one where it's like, even though I'm probably going to carry the flag for South Carolina because I love Beamer and I think they are playing their best ball right now, but Ole Miss to me has the next best resume. I think it's to me, if I was on the committee, I'd be choosing out of Ole Miss and South Carolina versus Bama, just because you guys dropped 2 games that you just should not have dropped.
I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I think that A holds more weight right now, just because of the last 20 years, and I think the committee's going to look at that. But I agree with what you're saying.
I know that the last 20 years.
That does suck.
Sucks.
That does suck.
It's what you're saying. It's going to be: are they favoring who has the hot hand or the head-to-head? And we're going to find that's the only thing.
Because I think if you're looking at the best 12 teams,
right?
No.
You can be the best team in the country in September, but really, how do you play in middle of October through November? That's to me is championship football.
Well, that's what's going to be different between when it used to be 4. Because last year, who has the hot hand favored us over Florida State. Like that's how it favored.
Right.
We lost to Texas, won the SEC championship against Georgia.
Yeah.
Are they gonna?
Bro, I'm telling you, these boys right here.
Yeah,
talk about a team being hot right now.
In Arizona State.
Are they going to have that same argument for the last spot out of 12?
That's it right there.
Say that again.
So, like I was saying, last year, the Bama argument to get in was win out after the Texas loss, win the SEC championship over Georgia, who hasn't lost in fucking 700
They were like
days.
they were going for I think they had the record for most consecutive wins.
Right. So that was the argument to get in last year.
Right.
For a 4 team, do you keep that same argument for the 12th team, like the very last spot in out of 12 teams, or is it head to head?
Which would be not to us.
If it's head to head, that's where you guys just unfortunately are the odd man out. But if you're going into finishing strong in the back half of the year, that's where it's like you got to really look at South Carolina.
To the point of 12 best teams, I think like I think where a team like South Carolina gets screwed is who do you think wins over Arizona State and South Carolina?
That's a shootout.
You think so?
I mean, the Valley's
there's no way to know.
There's no way to know unless the
question.
game gets played. I think it's easy to be like, oh, South Carolina probably handles them, but you can't just.
It's the guaranteed bids that I think
Arizona State's kind of inspired football.
Inspired, 49-7 against their rival.
Here's the thing, too.
Favored by 8.
While the iron's hot for South Carolina, how long do we have until they play that first playoff game? What if that iron gets cold? Same thing for Alabama. The iron is wishy-washy. You have time to prep.
And then that'd be a great argument if it was 365 days ago and your head coach is Nick Saban. We don't know what DeBoer and his prep looks like.
You kind of do.
Yeah, I saw.
Went to LSU, stadium was empty at the start of the fourth quarter.
Well, you look at DeBoer's resume before Bama.
Yeah,
he's got an incredible resume.
He's got a great resume.
Beat Sark,
lost to Michigan.
I think it just depends.
I think the college football world will be on fire if Bama gets in over Ole Miss and South Carolina. Just because I feel like a South Carolina, I feel like is more of a people's team right now. But again, it's like if you look at losing late in the year, Ole Miss's losses to Florida, and that Florida team is honestly pretty good, and they're going to be very good in the future.
Let me ask you this, Will. I don't disagree with what you're saying, but is South Carolina the people's team, or is it just the bubble we're living in? We're just stoked for JP.
Could be that.
My
algorithm could be tailored more toward the South
no
Carolina.
Doubt.
Everyone
no doubt.
is saying South Carolina.
But I think when you look at, I forget the stat that I put up on my tweet yesterday, but you look at the losses that Alabama had to common opponents. It was like Alabama lost, like, I'm just guessing right here, like 70-60, and South Carolina handles those teams like 60-20.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if you're just looking at that back half since, like you were saying, Taylor, mid-October,
other games too, like Ole Miss or
it's hard
Mizzou.
to if you.
Mizzou came
for sure. You guys killed. Yeah, you guys
them.
murdered Mizzou. That's a fair point. But you guys both got dubs, and if you look at head to head, you guys got them by 2 points. If you watch the Alabama South Carolina game, it came down to 1 or 2 plays. You got teams that are pretty equal. And if you that LSU game, bro.
Game.
Your quarterback Sellers goes down in that game, and you're still getting screwed by the referees. Like if anybody's truly looking at it, it's like that's a game that should have been a W for you guys. There's none of that conversation. You guys are a 2-loss SEC team. Maybe even playing for the SEC title. I have no clue, but at least you're going to be in it.
Honestly, what they should do is put both teams in.
Well, how are you going to do that?
5 teams?
Yeah.
How do you leave out Ole Miss then? You're going to have Ole Miss. I mean, Ole Miss is still a good 3-loss team who handled their business over South Carolina more than
that over Ole Miss. And then it comes down to what y'all are saying, like the people's team, South Carolina.
Yeah. A good point on the whole algorithm because, I could be in the I mean, look at JP. He's wearing a fucking jersey. He's wearing a jersey right now.
Good point. Yeah. The algorithm definitely.
Yeah.
And Jake, you guys are definitely going to get up to 5.
Tennessee's in a great spot because nobody's talking about
Penn State, they got to play, and then Georgia, Texas. And then there's Sherm's favorite team at 4, Notre Dame.
Come on. Hey,
Notre Dame can make some noise, man.
They
have a solid defense, bro. They have a good line of scrimmage.
One quick point that I think is a good way to see like how this committee, because it is a different committee each year, how they will grade something that they call the eye test, which is truly just the blue blood test, in my opinion, because they'll sit there and they go, well, Bama passes the eye test, South Carolina doesn't really pass the eye test. And it's like, what does that mean?
Yeah, it's kind of bullshit.
And you see in the AP poll, they have Ohio State at 7, and they're 2-loss. So they're above a 1-loss Indiana. Obviously, they beat them. They're over a 1-loss SMU and a 1-loss Boise State. Boise State has a common opponent a common loss with Ohio State. Why is Ohio State a 2-loss with the same common opponent for one of those losses over Boise? Well, strength of schedule, blah, blah, blah. Well, it's just because it's Ohio State. You flip those logos, and it's a completely different story. So, in the AP, Ohio State didn't drop enough, in my opinion, for me to think that if the committee votes the same way, I think that some of these 3-loss, 2-loss, they're going to get screwed, like a South Carolina.
But that's with everybody, though. You know what I mean?
It's with everyone.
Bama's lost 3 games, and they're sitting there at 11. You drop a bad one against Oklahoma, they didn't fall too far. They fell enough to where they can still be considered. And it's like Ohio State was number 2. They were number 2, right?
Yeah.
Number 2 team in the country. Yeah, you lose a very bad game
To a 5-loss.
to a 5-loss Michigan team, for sure.
A bad football team.
Yeah. Not
That
but,
threw
but
for 60
Oklahoma,
yards.
Oklahoma's what's Oklahoma's
Threw for
record?
60 yards.
Threw for 60
yards.
And
Unfortunately, that's like just the world we live in. Because again,
for
I
sure.
still feel like Boise State, as much as they're going to earn their way into the college football playoff, I do think they get beat pretty handily in the first round.
because you
But
look,
time will tell. Gentry's awesome. Again, they're a favorite just because they're like an outside of the Power 4.
Yeah.
and it makes me want to throw up in my mouth saying this, but like SMU is getting slept on so hard. If you do look at their schedule, if you do look at their only loss being that away game to a good BYU team
Earlier in the year,
it was super close. They probably should have won it. They're sitting at 8. That's crazy.
but at the end of the day, they win their conference championship. They're going to be a
They'll
seed. They're going to
skyrocket.
get a bye
Yeah.
week, right?
So that's how it works.
They're going to get a bye.
The Power 4
That's what I'm
conferences get a
saying.
bye.
If you
So let's just say SMU, Texas, Oregon, and then who would be the
But it's
Arizona
not-
State
yeah, in Arizona State.
would
But
all get
Taylor,
buys.
Yes.
It's not Taylor. It's not the Power 4. It's the top 4 ranked conference champions. So Arizona State could be number 11 in the CFP at the end of the season. Boise State could be number 10. Boise State would get that 4 seed.
That's true,
over
yeah.
Arizona State
Because right now they're ranked higher.
Gotcha.
which is
God,
crazy.
it's so
So
confusing.
who does
I don't know why
Boise
I'm
State
not
have this
grasping that.
weekend?
UNLV. They have UNLV.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Who's that?
they are ranked though. They're
UNLV.
number like 18 or 19, I believe.
But if Arizona State, they play in Colorado.
Did BYU win?
Iowa State. BYU did win.
So they're playing Iowa State?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of
Yeah, the
parameters
Big
with the Big
12 had a
12.
lot going on.
TCU had to win. West Virginia had to lose, and there was one other game
because
that-
Colorado was close to getting
bumped
back in the Big
BYU
12
out.
championship.
That'd have been
I know. It'd have been crazy.
crazy.